All right, we'll start now. This is Stephen G. Erickson. It's November 6th, 2013. I'm with Carla. She's a resident of Westport, Connecticut. Go ahead, Carla.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good.
I live in Westport, Connecticut. I've been here for about 18 years and have had more than a few unpleasant experiences. We, as a family, have dealt with a lot of retaliation and over-the-top harassment by the school district and the town of Westport. We, after many years of trying to work with them, filed a lawsuit in federal court, which lingered in the court system for 4 to 5 years before it was thrown out by Judge Droney. My children, during the time of the lawsuit, endured even more harassment in school during the day when they were away from me. And in PPT meetings for my daughter, I was on 2 occasions prior to the PPT told that I should drop the lawsuit by a woman who actually was leading the PPT. At all of my meetings prior to the lawsuit and then after the lawsuit, there were always attorneys present from usually Marsha Moses of Bertram Dental Moses law firm. Although she never said a word because she legally couldn't during the PPTs, she was always there. I retract that. There were a couple of occasions where she did speak. She stopped members of my daughter's PPT team from answering any questions, even though they were related to my daughter's IEP. She actually spoke out and ordered them not to speak. That would be ordering a teacher or a school psychologist or whomever was on my daughter's team to not respond to a question. And once she did that, they did not respond. But that happened maybe 2 or 3 times. She sat in on almost every PPT for about 7 to 8 years, even though we objected. After we filed the lawsuit, we saw more of her.
All right. Can I ask you to talk just a little bit louder because so we can get a even. Also, what do you think started all the retaliation in the Westport, Connecticut, the official?
One, when my daughter was going into 2nd grade, I discovered accidentally that she was going into a class that had no diversity, had no children from the previous 2 years, and I asked about it. And the principal told me that they did not have any children of color or who were culturally different. If they had them, they would have them in the classes. And I asked what had happened to the children from my daughter's kindergarten and 1st grade years, and the principal responded that those children were from Bridgeport, part of a state mandate, and that they kept them in separate classrooms, segregated for obvious reasons. When she said that, I questioned her, and I called my husband and told him about it. My husband challenged that. They said that they were very sorry. They offered to put my daughter into the classroom with those kids. But my objection was that they would actually isolate those children from Bridgeport, who I felt were already going through quite a bit as they tried to integrate into the community into an affluent community in Westport from Bridgeport after doing a 2-hour ride in the morning and having to share one bus with so many schools. I thought that having them held separate and apart from everybody else was just outrageous. And I spoke with principals. I spoke with Diane Farrell, the selectman at the time, and they were not happy with me. And Diane Farrell attempted to calm things down. She offered me a number of positions on town committees and so on to show that they were a diverse town, but my issue was with what was going on at the school. And they became even angrier, and I noticed that the teachers stopped speaking to me. When I entered the school, no one would talk to me. And then I noticed that I was being followed around the school. So,
Was your daughter? I mean, is your daughter? Well, I mean, at that time, was she the only non-white student in that class?
yes, she was.
So did.
And I was also told by the principal, the assistant principal, that because my daughter is so fair-skinned, they never thought that it would be a problem. And I said that it was not a problem. It started out as me just wondering why it's happening and being curious as to why it was happening. They created a larger situation by telling me that they isolated those children and kept them separate from everyone else. And I just didn't understand how that could be okay with anyone, especially educators.
Okay, so the racial diversity in Westport, Connecticut, is that they seem not to want to integrate minority students with the white students. They want to more or less keep the white students out.
At that time, at that time, I think that it was definitely a problem. It's certainly the the diversity component is still a very big problem here, whether they choose to acknowledge it or not. But at that time, me coming from New York City, I had lived here for 4 or 5 years, and I didn't feel it until my daughter was in school. And I absolutely think that there was a problem. I think that they didn't know what to do or how to handle it because they didn't think there was a problem.
Uh, do you think they wanted to keep minority students out of the white classes? Do you think that was overt?
I think, yes, at that time, yes, I do. Yeah, I do. That's my opinion. Yeah.
And
I also, I'm sorry.
what was the approximate year of that?
That would be 1999.
1999.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's
And
do you think it's still present, just quieter?
I think it's present. After I went to the media and after I, spoke to the selectmen and made a lot of dialogue on this, the following year, the animosity towards me increased and the hostility. However, they did change their platform, and the children who were being brought in from Bridgeport on the state mandate, they were integrated a little more intensively into classes. They didn't have them in one class per grade. You know, um, so in say second or third or fourth grade, you would find kids from the the Bridgeport area in those different classes as opposed to in one class alone. And often, when I first came in, they had them in one class, and that class also contained children who might have had some sort of disability, whether it be learning or something else. Um, but no, back then it was pretty obvious that there was a problem.
All right.
And quite frankly, when I spoke to other parents whose children had already completed the school, um, the school system in Westport, people of color, um, without exception, they all told me that they had had to pull their children out and put them into private school.
They had to take their kids out of public schools and put them in private because they were
Yeah.
minorities.
Yeah, and because of the difficulty that the kids had, they were bullied. Schools, the administration ignored that type of bullying. They claimed it wasn't happening. If you have a child whose hair is a different texture and someone is making fun of their hair and it's really impacting them, you tell the teacher and the administrators and you hope that they'll do something. If they don't, and it just gets worse and worse, your child's self-esteem becomes affected. Your child is distracted from the business of learning and is now wondering if what they see in the mirror is wrong. And that's what I was hearing from other parents. And I was even encouraged by some older residents here to never take my eyes off the kids as long as they were in Town Elementary. And that was very alarming.
Do you think the temple Israel, as a temple of Israel, um, in Westport, from rumors I've heard that they take care of uh, a lot to do with the financing of the school system, the ins and outs, town hall, pretty much across the board, rule, from some secret room uh, to decide policy. Do you think racist policies come out of there and are mandated by some secret entity to, make the town as it is?
I don't know the impact of any one temple in the town. I do know that many people in town, including myself at one time, have attended services at Temple Israel. I do know that the temple is an important part of the town for many people for many reasons. I do know that the I don't know of any connection between the Board of Finance and Temple Israel. I don't know factually of anything to do with that. I do know that the school system, the bulk of our taxes do go to the school system. I've heard rumors that as much as 80% of our tax dollars go to the school system. I've heard that it is very difficult to get certain attention to certain issues as a result of the school district's power and the power of the superintendent, Elliot Landon, and the support that he has gotten from a large faction of the town. But I have been hearing this for several years. I, in fact, did name Elliot Landon in my lawsuit, and I certainly named the town of Westport and the Board of Education. However, in the federal suit, my attorney arbitrarily, her name is Dawn Westbrook, she's now a judge, Dawn Westbrook, without my consent, removed the town of Westport from the suit after being the one to insist that they needed to be named in the suit. She uh, later on told me that she was removing them from the suit.
Did she tell you why?
No, she called me one evening when I was at a function at school, and I took the call, and she told me what she was doing, and I said, well, why would you do that? You're the one that said that we should do it this way, and that the town is responsible. And she said that she couldn't do it that way, that the town wasn't responsible, that it wasn't illegal to name the town. So,
So you're saying that
so
some.
they were taken off that suit, and it was the Board of Ed and the others, Cynthia Gilchrist, Elliot Landon, and Kay May, who was the principal of Colby Town, at the time that much of the awfulness started with myself and my kids. My son was in preschool at that time, and the preschool happened to be on the premises of Colby Town.
Well, if you
Colby,
if you're fixing court cases, that's basically mafia. So it's almost like a mafia organization. If they're rigging court cases where they can't be sued, or they're manipulating the outcome, or having just cases just dropped and not heard, so it means they're basically running the courts.
well, certainly in the state case that we just lost, well, I guess we won it technically because they found that my son was assaulted. This case was my son was assaulted at Bedford Middle School when he was 11 years old by two boys in the presence and sight of the teacher. The boys admitted in depositions and in court that they did assault him. The judge ordered the jury to disregard the fact that my son collapsed because his ankles gave way. He has ongoing problems now, and probably will for the rest of his life with his ankles. He has a lot of pain. My judge, I forgot his name at this moment, but he ordered the jury to disregard that because he felt that my son's collapse onto the pavement could have been the result of another incident that we did not disclose, which I thought was pretty outrageous. The inference being that something happened to my son in addition to the assault, and that we chose to keep it from the authorities and from the court. Um, the judge also instructed us, my attorney and the defense, uh, that he told them that we could not submit our medical records that went back from the time of the assault going forward. My son has had ongoing medical care, and he put a time cap on what the jury could see. As time progressed and my son grew, the injury became even more egregious and more noticeable, and we were running around like chickens with our heads cut off trying to find the appropriate doctor to treat it without, it was like a needle in a haystack.
What needed
And
to be treated?
we had doctors who kept telling us that he wasn't really, they couldn't find anything, there was no real injury. We weren't allowed to submit the MRIs, we weren't allowed to submit a lot of the medical records. So that influenced the jury. So while they found that the assault occurred and that my son was hurt, they didn't feel that there were any damages.
Well, I mean,
The judge also forbids us to present medical bills for the extent of time that this has been going on.
well,
Meanwhile,
if
the
somebody's
government has dragged out the case for 5 years.
if somebody's assaulted, that's a crime.
Yes.
Okay. In Connecticut and in other states, important people that are insiders, they can have it where you're haunted by the IRS. They have police informants. They have people harassing you, threatening you. You're more or less shunned by the establishment, and they more or less just try to harm you with police, with their anywhere they can across the board. What have you experienced where they've harassed you trying to get you to leave town, and have they actually told you to leave town?
Yes, I was told by a principal once that I should think of moving to another town where there are people who are like myself.
Meaning that
Being that I am not really, I don't belong here. This was said to me a number of years ago that I don't belong here. That
because you're not white.
I think that was a part of it, but I also think it was because I didn't really succumb to most of the suggestions made to me that I shouldn't ask questions and that I should look the other way when I see things that don't quite seem right or make sense. I should just look the other way. I was literally told by a physician here in town not to rock the boat, that it could impact my children. And in truth, he was correct. It impacted my children and myself. Prior to filing the suit, we dealt with a lot of harassing incidents, one of which was my husband, who is white, was able to do what he liked, go where he went, drop the kids off with no incident. If I came by 10 minutes later to pick up my child, be it from beach camp or from the Saugatuck Elementary School where my daughter was doing, a little extra time with classes in the summer, I would be accosted by whoever was there. It could be that school principal, it could be, and this is during the summertime when school is out. So while she's doing the summer session, if I'm on a queue waiting for my daughter to come out, I could be on a queue with other people, but I would be the one who was flagged as being inappropriate. I'm not parked in the right place, and I was supposed to move immediately. I was yelled at, I was screamed at by people that I didn't know, that had never seen me before, but they came over as if they knew me. I had people walk up to me and tell me after I parked my car that I couldn't park in a certain spot. And there were a couple occasions where my husband and I arrived to meetings separately and parked alongside of each other. And when I would come out, there'd be some sort of a notice or sticker on my car, but my husband's car would not have a notice or a sticker. His parking was fine, and so was the person on the opposite side of me. So yeah, I was targeted. Um, We had problems with our telephones. We had problems with our mail for many years. And occasionally we still had a problem with mail that's missing, mail that's been opened, usually mail that relates to our finances, mail that relates to bills. Um, I've had mail that comes from, say, the if it's coming from the NAACP or the ACLU or, I mean, public citizens, that mail, will come to me and it's opened, or sometimes membership cards will not be in the envelopes. I mean, we've had a number of different things. I've had my car keyed. I go in to pick up my child and come back 15 minutes later, and a brand new car had been keyed. Um, I I guess this will be 2 Christmases ago, 4 days before Christmas, I went in to Stop and Shop with my 2 children at about 5 in the evening. We were in there for about 15 minutes at Western Union, and when we came out, we passed the Santa Claus for the Red Cross, said hello, went to the car, and there were huge mounds of human feces sitting on the running board of my truck.
Well, it could have been dog feces. It was just, it was crap. I don't know,
I don't know. We took it to you're correct. We took it to a car wash where they did not feel that it was. But I don't know. I can honestly say I didn't study it. It was pretty horrifying.
But it was something that was placed on the running boards.
Yes, and we did call the police. And the police finally showed up at my house a couple of hours later. And that was a waste of time. I later found out that the police report had been backdated so that instead of it happening 4 days before Christmas, according to the police report, it happened 14 days before Christmas. And I guess that's supposed to take the impact, lessen the impact of that. But the gentleman and the attendant at the car wash said they would never forget. They would never forget me or my kids or that car. They'd never dealt with anything like that. And they distinctly remembered the day.
Well, if you're being blackballed, or if you're on some secret enemies list, which they go after you, to have the police, I guess they'll, if you push them, they'll actually do some sort of investigation where they write your name down, but they really don't try that hard.
Well, I never hear from them after the investigation, so I have to agree with you.
The only way to really nail anybody for anything, no matter what it is now, if you're not the officials who want, or going after somebody, is a camera. I mean, if you don't get it on your cell phone video or a video camera with audio and have that sort of proof, it seems that no matter what you do or say, they just you can't get anywhere unless you actually have video proof.
Well, I would agree with that. In 2011, we, at the advice of a friend, had surveillance cameras installed on our property. Prior to that, we were having unbelievable amounts of harassment. Our garbage was being turned over. Almost every night, the garbage was being turned over and strewn all across the yard and the driveway. It was pretty disgusting.
Did you catch anything on the video surveillance?
It never happened again after the cameras went out. After the cameras went up and we made it clear to people, we let people know that we had the cameras installed. A lot of things happened. We had occasions where yard furniture was destroyed overnight. We had occasions where things were thrown into the pool, which is in the back of the house, which is very scary, which means that they navigated around the circumference of the house to do these things. We put a privacy fence up, and that helped, but it wasn't until the cameras went up that it just became very peaceful again. The police always told us that the issue with the garbage was animals. We kept bricks on top of the heavy bricks and the flagstone on top of the garbage cans as an experiment. And these raccoons were very good because they removed the bricks, they pulled the garbage out, dragged it all across. They went through the papers and mail. That's before we were shredding. They went through mail and they left it out. So after we did three things. In 2005, we started shredding our mail, and it took a couple of years for that, to sink in, I guess. But the issue of the actual trash, just the trash being, the garbage thrown around, that went on for years until the cameras came up.
Well, if things like that are being done, they're trying to say, get out, don't come back. They try to make you feel violated and under attack, and that's how they get people to, mentally break down and to just give up and leave.
They succeeded in making us feel violated. Um, I've lost track of how many times I had friends ask me what was wrong with my phone because of all of the noises on the phone. I've lost track of how many phones were just disconnected, on landlines, um, over and over again.
Do you have a lot of computer problems?
We have a tremendous amount of computer problems now, even though we've uploaded all sorts of antiviralware and antispyware. We don't use Skype or anything, but we've had a lot of problems. I changed our phone system so that it was a grounded landline phone instead of a fiber optic, but we still have the wireless internet, and it can be interrupted, and there are many times when my computer alone, which is one of the newer computers in the house, will simply not capture the internet. Or right now I'm having a lot of difficulty with my email account. One of my email accounts has now been shut down 3 times in the last 8 days by Yahoo. They say that there's been some suspicious activity, so I've had to change my password over and over again. Today I have not been able to really get my emails. I'm getting a lot of mail and demon mail when I do on my cell phone. So emails I sent out are coming back to me as incorrect, whether it's to my husband or my dad or a business associate. They come back as mail and demon undeliverable.
Well,
So,
I know from personal experience that I've had computers that were new suddenly not work ever again, and that's been over a number of years, and also having other problems with computers. And when you use the internet as part of your job, and then not being able to have access to it, it's interfering with one's livelihood.
yeah, yeah. And we've had a lot of difficulties, just a tremendous amount of difficulty. I didn't just file a suit because of my harassment, my kids. I filed the suit, and the federal suit, by the way, I never filed for any kind of monetary damages. I didn't look for money. I didn't want money. And we're not rich, but I didn't want money. What I wanted, first and foremost, was to bring some light to this. That this entity in the town of Westport and the Board of Ed, actually felt comfortable attacking my family over and over again, singling out my son, who was the youngest, over and over again, singling out my daughter, who was just, learning disabled, using my children to hurt me, to hobble me, to attempt to stop me from speaking out on behalf of ourselves and anybody else. And that was the problem. Many, many people spoke to me in the street, in the supermarket. Many people saw me at school and offered their support. Um, there were teachers, and there are teachers who, through no fault of their own, have had to, keep their distance, but are very nice people who understood that what they were being told wasn't true. that my children were very good kids. My kids are not problem kids. But then you had other people. We had people who were supposed to be watching over our children, making sure our children were safe during the day, and yet my son was assaulted, and not for the first time. My daughter was hit over the head with a 2-liter water bottle, and was concussed, and they did nothing. They didn't notify me, and there were 2 adult monitors, staff people there. They saw it. Their concern was for the quote unquote troubled child who did the hitting. Um, Initially, in the state suit, the assault of my son, I had also filed on behalf of my daughter. But the pressure that was put on my daughter by the school was so horrendous. And she was in Staples High School at that point, and she was being harassed so relentlessly, and they were so cruel to her. And because of her learning disability, she was so dependent on their kindness that I literally asked my attorney to remove her from the suit.
All right. Let's pretend that I'm the intake person for the mainstream media. I'm going to give you 3 or 4 minutes, and assuming I know absolutely nothing about your case, I'd like you to say what would be most alarming to the general public, all of America, on your what happened to you. If you could put it into simple terms, to say, like, to get the mainstream media to investigate it. And I'd like you to talk close to the earpiece and louder if possible.
Okay.
And then just let me know, like if I were to give the next clip to the mainstream media, what would you want to say to get them to investigate or follow up with you, or just to get the gist of your case?
The most outrageous and upsetting thing is that the judicial system will not help you. If you are the victim, you will not get help. The judicial system will not allow it. If you are fortunate enough to get an attorney who will fight for you and can't be compromised, that's wonderful, but that does not mean that you will get any degree of justice. You still have to get through the jury selection process, which can be corrupted, and you have to get a judge who cannot be persuaded to work against you, the victim. I guess the second thing is suspend your disbelief. If you suspect that it's possible that you're male and your privacy is being violated, that's because it probably is. And what's really sad is proving it is very difficult, and if you do prove it, you will be harassed even further. And I guess the third and the first, it should have been the first, they will harm you. They will harm you. They will harm you through your children. They will harm you through your business. They will harm you in any way they can to assert their control over you and make you stop what you're doing and be fearful. They want you to be fearful.
All right. You live in slang term Bankport, which is Westport, Connecticut. I mean, a lot of policies for the entire country, the entire world. Some of the most elite and powerful people live in your general area, and they call the shots. I mean, they're movie producers. They're part of the mainstream media. They're bankers. They're stockbrokers. They are the movers and shakers that have the most amount of power. You being non-white and a predominantly white, and you bring up Jewish at all, they say that you're anti-Semitic. Which I think if there's an Italian mafia or Irish mafia, you're not being racist wherever else, but you say anything about say like the Temple of Israel being having undue influence. I mean, there's racism coming from somewhere, and whether it's Greenwich, Connecticut, where they don't want any non-residents using the public beaches. Basically, don't want whites there. And I think the general area You know, they should be brought up into, you know, this century, you know, where that's just not okay. Are you there? Hello? Hello?